agency meeting. We're glad you're here. Mr. County Attorney, have you reviewed the affidavit?
Good morning, Joe Adams with the County Attorney's Office. I have reviewed the affidavit and find it legally sufficient.
Thank you. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This is a public forum. If anyone here wishes to speak today from the public, it's not a member of the applicant or the staff, you may see Janet. Also, if there's anyone here that has an agenda item that is not on our printed agenda, we'll be happy to address that at the end. Are there any other items to be added? Seeing none, I now go to the LPA and ask for a review or comments or approval of the minutes from August 25.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. We're going to be discussing as our first agenda item 4A, Lee Plan Amendments, CPA 2024-00017, State Road 31, Civic 10 map amendments. To amend Lee Plan Map 1A, the future land use map, to change the future land use category of the subject property from rural to outlying suburban, and amend Map 4A, Lee County Utilities Future Water Services Area, to include the subject property. The property is located on the west side of State Road 31, directly north of the Lee County Civic Center. Do we, Richard?
Yes, good morning, members of the LPA. Richard Aiken of Pearson Franklin is speaking on behalf of the applicant here on the State Road 31 Civic 10 Comprehensive Plan Amendment. We've got our project team here with us this morning. Property owner is Mario Painting with Mario's Painting in South Florida. Ben Smith is our planner. He is with Morris Pugh and Associates. Brian Sheets is the engineer. He's also here. He's also with Morris Pugh. Drew Byhout is the transportation consultant. He's here this morning. And Paul Owen.
Oh, there you go. Now you can hear me a little better? All right. And also our ecologist, Paul Owen, is here and he has a brief presentation as well. And Mr. Stouter indicated the location already of the property. You can see it outlined in yellow. It's 9.58 acres. It's in the Bayshore Community Planning Area, directly across the street from the adjacent planning area. It directly abuts the Lee County Civic Center to the south, so you can see there on the aerial, you can see the parking lot to the Civic Center is right there. It's about 3/4 of a mile south of the Babcock Ranch community, which is an existing MPD. And the frontage of the property is along State Road 31, and Babcock Ranch has the planned 4-lane expansion there. As I'm sure you all know, and you've heard in a number of other, not only CPAs, but other matters around the county, State Road 31 is being expanded. Most of the acquisition by DOT for that additional roadway, or the expansion of the roadway, has already occurred. There may be some additional places where DOT is still getting right of way, but I believe almost all of it's been done at this point in time. So it will be a 4-lane roadway, and then eventually with plans, I believe, to go to 6. You'll hear a little bit more about that from Yuri. So our request here this morning is to amend the future land use map to designate the property from rural to outlying suburban. The primary reason for that, as you're going to hear, is that there's an existing and companion CPD application in effect for this property. So it's for a commercial use. It's not to get additional density. It's just to allow the ability to expand the commercial uses slightly in this corridor, which is changing. We also need to amend the community, the future water service area map in order to put the property on that so that we can expand water service to the property. Central water will also be central sewer in order to expand those commercial uses on site. So those are the two requests that we have. With that, I'm going to let Ben Smith come up here and walk through the planning portions of the application, and we'll answer any questions as you have them or at the end, however you'd like. Come on, Ben.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Here on behalf of the applicant, I'm Ben Smith with Morris Pugh Associates. Slide. The applicant, as Richard stated, is requesting a future land use map amendment to change the designation of this property from rural to outlying suburban. Again, the reason for that change is to allow for additional flexibility for commercial development of the site. Currently, Policy 6.1.2 places restrictions on commercial development in non-urban categories, including a restriction of 30,000 square feet per parcel. So for a 10-acre site like this, that's fairly restrictive. They would like to, the applicant would like to have an increased flexibility of uses as well as the ability to have 100,000 square feet of commercial. And that'll be requested as part of the companion CPD application, which is submitted and has been found sufficient by staff. And that is currently being scheduled for a hearing. As you can see, outlying suburban in this location is a logical extension of where that designation already exists to the east of the property. And realistically, of course, as Richard mentioned, this area is transitioning, and especially this corridor is transitioning quickly. And the area is really, especially this area, is no longer rural, more aptly meets the description of the outlying suburban category. To give you some more context, here is the current zoning surrounding the property. Obviously, abutting the property to the south, the Civic Center is zoned community facilities, and on the east side of this property, you have two planned developments, an MPD as well as a CPD. Together, and the CPD is pending at this time, but together these two planned developments are going to propose a fairly intense mix of residential and commercial uses right there adjacent to the property. A little touchy. Hold on. To give you a little more a context as well, as Richard mentioned, a lot of changes happening in this area. One of those is that FDOT is working on an expansion project for State Road 31. Here is the segment of that project, the current plans for that project, right there adjacent to the subject property. As you can see, there is the existing roadway will actually become a frontage road for a new 4-lane highway. The eminent domain proceedings have already been underway, if not concluded, and the plans are coming together for this particular improvement to happen pretty soon. And I want to, actually I'll show you one more close-up of that so you can see a little bit better here. Here it is, zoomed in a little bit. That is the proposed improvements adjacent to the subject property. As you can see, Old Rodeo Drive is going to be the connection point to the frontage road. It'll provide direct access to the Civic Center and to the terminus of the frontage road adjacent to the subject property there. We wanted to show you this graphic to provide a little additional context for not just the Bayshore community planning area, but also the State Road 31 corridor. As you can see, there's a number of approved and proposed commercial projects, RPDs, starting in and the existing commercial sites are shown with red stars along the corridors. Starting in the northeast corner of this map, you have, again, we touched on the Babcock MPD. That is the southern reaches of that MPD, which is less than a mile from the property. And that portion of the MPD is proposed for mixed use. Moving down, you have approved commercial, proposed commercial, our subject property, the Civic Center, additional existing and proposed commercial uses along Bayshore Road, pointing out a few large RPDs, and the Brightwater Lagoon, which is part of a very large RPD. So we just wanted to give you a little context. This community is changing, it's transitioning quickly, and especially in the corridors, so we wanted to provide that for you to see. Again, we touched on Babcock Ranch. You all are familiar with it. There are thousands of dwelling units that are already built in Babcock Ranch. Thousands more are going to be coming online. Of course, commercial recreational facilities, schools, all of that is part of this community. It's right up the road from the subject property. Within the actual planning community itself, I just wanted to point out a few of the more significant projects. There are several significant developments, mostly new, some already under construction or mostly completed, which would allow for a range of residential, commercial, public recreational, and hotel uses. You all are familiar with the Civic Center if you've lived here for any period of time. It was built originally in 1978. All sorts of events there, from the fair, gun shows, concerts. It draws crowds on a regular basis, and as you already mentioned, it abuts the subject property. Bayshore Community, Brightwater Lagoon. This is the latest gem of the Bayshore planning community. The Brightwater Lagoon is a water park that is open to the public. It's within an RPD that allows for almost 1,300 homes. The water park includes a 6-acre lagoon and other amenities, and it's just another venue that draws visitors from outside this community and is perfect for hosting events. So we wanted to get into the CPD, the companion CPD rezoning. We're not here obviously to approve that today, but I wanted to touch on that. We are required to submit a companion CPD or plan development rezoning request as part of this application. That is just part of the Bayshore Community Plan policies. And so I wanted to go through it with you a little bit today, where the applicant is asking for 100,000 square feet of non-residential uses. Obviously, ingress egress off of the new State Road 31 frontage road. To the west, this master concept provides 195 feet of separation in conjunction with the lake and the buffers. To the north, there's 134 to 215 feet of separation through preservation of indigenous as well as buffers. So this, and then of course, 31 is to the east and the Civic Center is to the south. The schedule of uses for this CPD will be consistent with the Bayshore Community Plan as well as the outlying suburban future land use category. That means in this location, no retail is permitted, no industrial is permitted, and the applicant is not asking for any residential density as part of this of that CPD application. So that is mostly due to the fact that this site is just not ideal for residential. You got the 4-lane highway coming in and you're adjacent to the Civic Center. Really, we're focusing on commercial with this development. The proposed commercial uses are consistent with the existing and planned uses along the State Road 31 commercial corridor. And of course, the new services as well as employment opportunities will eventually result in reduction in vehicle miles traveled by locating those commercial uses near the existing and planned residential. We did want to touch on a few points of the Bayshore Community Plan and talk about consistency of this request with that. Objective 18.1 requires that this request for a future land use map amendment must demonstrate compatibility through a concurrent plan development rezoning. We've provided a few details of that, and also want to let you know it's been found sufficient by staff. It's currently being scheduled for a hearing with the hearing examiner's office, and the design of the master concept plan provides for those buffers and physical separation that meet the goals of that planning community and that community plan. I'm not going to recite LEAP plan policy to you here today. We have a significant amount of analysis that's been provided in the narrative as part of this application. Staff has also done a great job in their staff report. This application has been found consistent with the LEAP plan by staff. They're recommending approval. I'm happy to answer any questions about the LEAP plan policies as they pertain to this request. Suffice to say that it is consistent with the outlying suburban future land use category. The design will meet all of the policy requirements for commercial development, timing of development, and infill development. And of course, the community meeting, the informational meeting was conducted according to the requirements. We are also asking for a change in the water service area map. Here you can see this is really an infill request. This is actually necessary because Lee Plan Policy 4.1.1 requires new single commercial development over 30,000 square feet to connect to a public water system. So that's one of the reasons we're asking for this. The other reason, of course, is that it's beneficial to both the development as well as the public to have centralized utilities for this development. And FGUA will be the service provider for sewer. That's why we're not asking for a change in the sewer map. All of this eliminates the need for on-site septic and has the potential to reduce pollutant loadings, which is a positive for the public benefit. And of course, that request has also been found consistent with the Lee Plan and the pertinent policies. I'm going to conclude by noting that the application provides all the appropriate letters of availability for service, and I want to leave you with Yuri Baikow, who will come up next to talk about the TIS and potential traffic impacts. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Are utilities in front of the site now or close by, or are you extending them to the site?
They will have to be extended to the site.
Property owner extending or county?
The property owner is willing to wait and see if there's other property owners that would be willing to share in the costs of that extension, or extend it on his own dime. It hasn't really been worked out yet what the plan will be exactly. But with all the expansion happening and all of the recent changes to the corridor, there's the willingness to wait and see what happens before spending significant resources to extend it.
Good question.
Hank?
Can you please give us the status of those cases that were pending,
Which cases? I'm sorry.
that were referenced in this, that there were complaints or violations?
Oh, you mean the existing code violations on the property? Okay. Yeah, so I've had conversations about that with the county attorney's office. So there are some approved permit special exceptions for allowed truck parking and things like that on the property. I think there was a little bit of confusion about the extent of what those allowed. The idea here is part of the application for the CPD is going to clean up the existing violations by allowing some of the commercial use. And we're working between the applicant and the county to clear those up now, not only partially now, but also between the CPD applications so that some of them will be allowed. But they're not set for hearing. We've been working with the county to get everything cleaned up and within the allowable uses that are not only allowed today, but then hopefully will be one day.
Will these be cleared up before it goes to county?
When you say before the PD application,
Assuming we have passed this and go forward.
so I think the answer is no. It's not going to be cleared up before this application gets to the Board of County Commissioners. However, we've worked with staff to get it to a place where it's not going to a hearing before the hearing examiner to push the violation forward. So it's not officially abated, but we're getting closer to that point, if that makes sense. It's sort of in a limbo status because of the request for the additional uses through the CPD process, if that makes sense.
One more question. In the report, it's noted that the property is adjacent to or proximate to the DRGR area, and I did not see it highlighted.
It's in the staff report.
Yeah, so if you look in the staff report, the density reduction groundwater resources to the north and the east, there is no, I don't believe there's any density reduction groundwater resource future land use directly adjacent to or bordering this property in any location. There's not. You can see here's the future land use map existing on the left-hand side of the screen, so it's all rural. If you kind of go back up to the north and east, that's where the DRGR would be.
Okay, thank you.
And there are additional, I'm sure you're very familiar with that, but the DRGR has all kinds of additional policies that require groundwater monitoring, all kinds of studies to be done, modeling and all that kind of stuff. We're not there, and we're not within that future land use, so we're not required to do that. I understand. It's a very, very valid question, sir.
I have a question, Stan. I noticed that there was 0 attendees at the community meeting.
Yes, sir.
This has kind of been in my service in this committee, this particular corridor has been very community involved. I was surprised by that. Are there any other community meetings planned? Or is this, if, say we were to transfer this just goes straight to the Board of County Commissioners, or what happens from here?
So I want to let you know that representatives for our client actually did reach out to, and this wasn't part of the official planning, the informational meeting that was required, but prior to even launching into this application, our client's representative did reach out to several of the board members, the Bayshore Community Plan board members, discuss this with them. Their main concerns that were relayed at that time were related to residential. And they're indicating that they did not want a dense residential project to come in. And so we're not doing that. And so that may be one of the reasons why we did not have a lot of interest in the scheduled planning workshop that we had. It was advertised correctly. We were at the fire station there off of Bayshore Road. I suspect that this particular project is just not, perhaps maybe not of a great interest to the planning community. If it is, we're happy to work with them. We're happy to discuss the project further with them. If they have any concerns, we're here to listen. Yeah.
And Mr. Gardner, if I could also just add, so not for this project, but for a number of other projects that I've had over the last few months, I've attended a number of the meetings that those various planning communities have on their own. And I don't want to specifically say which one or who because I don't remember, but I was asked by somebody about this project very briefly, and I said, yeah, I am working on it, and there's no residential, and they kind of said, okay, well, whatever, and there was no further questions asked. Again, I don't recall who asked me, and I don't recall which meeting it was at, but it was one of those planning meetings or planning committee meetings, and there are those that are aware of it. I will also note, and I'm not sure how relevant it is, but I know that we had a number of meetings back when we came in for the Babcock MPD amendment. We had multiple meetings there, and we had very little participation due to the fact that I don't want to state or surmise why, but there wasn't. I believe that they're engaged and they know what's going on, and when they find something to be objectionable, they know how to show up and object, and they just have not, at least to the extent that we know it right now. And we will have to go to the board for transmittal following this hearing, and then there will be an adoption hearing with the board because it's over 5 acres. So.
Don. All right, please proceed with traffic.
Good morning, Yuri Baika with TR Transportation Consultants. We prepared our typical comprehensive plan amendment traffic analysis for this application. As part of our analysis, we prepared our typical 10,000-foot view level of service analysis on the surrounding roadway network, and the results of our level of service analysis indicated that none of the county-maintained roadways will operate below the adopted level of service standards. SR 31, however, there are some segments of SR 31 that currently operate below the adopted level of service standards, but again, there's many improvements that you may be aware of that are happening in this area. The first one is the ongoing widening of SR 31 from Babcock Ranch to SR 78. They're initially widening into 4 lanes with future expandability to 6 lanes whenever that's needed. And that project is anticipated to be completed in year 2027. The second project is the remaining widening of SR 31 from SR 78 down to Palm Beach Boulevard or State Road 80. And that's going to be widening from 2 lanes to 6 lanes with future as it also includes a future bridge, a 6-lane bridge over the Caloosahatchee River. And that project is funded for construction in 2029. And then the other project that's happening, it's still ongoing. It's the ongoing project development and environmental study that's evaluating the widening of SR 78 from State Road 31 to I-75 from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, which also is evaluating the interchange improvements. And again, that study is still ongoing. So that's all the analysis we required to prepare at this time. If this is approved, we still have to go through a rezoning process and development order process, and during each of those stages, we'll prepare a much more detailed traffic analysis. But at this time, we just typically look at 10,000-foot view level of service analysis at this early stage of the project. Thank you. Oh,
Okay?
yeah.
Not retail, commercial, could you define how much traffic that generates?
Yeah, so for example, in this scenario, we kind of looked at the worst case traffic scenario. So we assumed about 100,000 square feet of commercial uses, which consist of basically medical office and general office uses. That kind of generates approximately 1,700 daily trips, which is not too high. Again, it's my understanding we're not proposing any intense commercial retail uses, and we're not allowed to, so that's why it's not a very high traffic generator use.
So the existing roadways would be using the traffic that's being generated?
In a short range analysis, yes. Yeah, because there's improvements that are going to be happening in this area, yes.
We have a question?
Yuri? Exiting the site, heading north on 31, it looks like there's a directional there, so they would need to use Old 31 to get up to, Old Bayshore Road. Because I would expect there to be a lot of traffic coming from Babcock to this. So that light there on Old Bayshore Road, what's the timing of that light?
Of this traffic light?
Yeah.
So that's being done as part of the overall widening project, which, as I mentioned, will be anticipated to be completed in 2027.
So both of those lights are installed when the road is installed, not waiting for more in service?
Yep, yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the site, we have the site. And the site, now we can look at the species survey, right? The site consists of 4.86 acres of wide oak upland, mixed hardwoods, and willow wetlands, which are considered to be indigenous habitat.
Oh, geez, okay. Which are around the site. There's a bit of a disturbed area down to the southwest. These uplands and wetlands are poor quality due to site disturbances and exotic vegetation infestation, as well as the surrounding roads like State Road 31 and development. You've got Lee County Civic Center to the south, as previously discussed. The proposed plan includes preserving wetlands and buffers totaling 3.9 acres, which will include the removal of exotic vegetation. This includes the restoration of 0.09 acres of mixed hardwoods. The applicant will submit an ERP application to the South Florida Water Management District, which will include impacts to wetlands for their review and approval. The Southwest Florida Management District ERP permitting process will include an analysis of wetland impact avoidance and minimization, as well as wetland mitigation. Wetland mitigation will be accomplished by some on-site restoration and enhancement, as well as possibly going to an off-site mitigation bank if necessary. So we had also conducted the protected species survey. Oops, this thing is touchy. On the site, and there were no listed species observed. And actually, the wetland habitat for wildlife on the site is very poor due to the disturbances, exotic vegetation, and surrounding existing development. And that concludes my presentation.
Any questions? Thank you, Paul.
So that brings us to our conclusion. As Ben mentioned earlier, we have a staff recommendation of approval in this particular application. As Ben testified, the application is consistent with the Lee Plan and the Bayshore Community Plan. And I just want to back up and point out briefly that, the Bayshore Community Plan and the Bayshore Community Planning Area, that is where this property is located directly across 31. I believe it's North Olga, if I'm not stating that incorrectly. So it is in a separate community planning area due to the limitations on the commercial development in a non-urban area, which is what rural is. That's why we're here, as we stated before. It's to get it out of a non-urban area in order to reduce the cap, because commercial development is allowed on site. We just believe that given the location on State Road 31, which is being widened, it makes sense to utilize the site for those commercial uses. We've provided the opportunity for public input through the community meeting, as we stated before. The application provides the opportunity for additional commercial services. We believe it's appropriate in this location, and it's logical to go to outlying suburban here. And as noted again, very specifically, we're not doing this to get any additional density out of the project. And there is a provision within the Lee County Land Development Code that I can't state off the top of my head, but it does allow you to consider the CPD application as part of this comprehensive plan amendment and to analyze that factor as well. So if you have any other questions for us, we would be happy to answer it before we turn it over to staff.
Any further questions? None at this time, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Staff? Thank you.
Good morning. Kate Burgess, Principal Planner with the Lee County Planning Section. So some of this will be a repeat of what the applicant has already said. We'll try to keep it as brief as possible. So this case is a privately initiated map amendment known as SR 31 Civic 10. Despite the size of this property, it's 9.5-ish acres. It'll follow the expedited state review for the comp plan amendment instead of the small scale because it includes a map outside of the future land use map series. So that means that it has the LPA and then 2 board hearings after this. So the applicant is requesting to amend the future land use of the 9.58 acre subject property located on the west side of State Road 31, just north of the Civic Center, from rural to outlying suburban, and incorporate the subject property into the Lee County Utilities Future Water Service Area map. A companion rezone has been submitted for the subject property as well. That is DCI 2025-00005. So the first request, I can't talk today. The first request is to amend map 1A, the future land use map, which is depicted on this slide. The map on the left shows the existing conditions with the subject property within the rural future land use category. There's outlying suburban directly across the street and public facilities directly south. The map on the right shows the applicant's requested change. This would be the first property on the west side of State Road 31 to go to the outlying suburban category. For reference, there is DRGR, but it is north of North River Road, so approximately a mile north of this site is where the DRGR rural line is in the Bayshore Community Plan. The second request is to add the subject property to LCU's future water service area, which is depicted in map 4A. The property owner has gotten a letter of availability from FGUA stating that they will provide sewer services, but they want to go to LCU's water service area. So the staff report provides a full analysis of all of the amendments, consistency with the Lee Plan. I'm just going to highlight a couple for my presentation, otherwise we'd be here for 30 minutes of me just going through Lee Plan analysis. So the subject property is currently designated with the rural future land use category, which is described in Lee Plan Policy 1.4.1. As noted in the background section of the staff report, the subject property has supported both non-residential and residential uses since the 1970s. FDOT's expansion of State Road 31, Bayshore Road, and the 31 drawbridge, along with the private development of utility and public safety infrastructure along the 31 corridor, and the property's proximity to the Civic Center, provide the property with capital improvements and services that aren't typical of the rural future land use category. Outlying suburban is described as rural in nature with access to some centralized infrastructure that is planned or already in place, and similar to the rural future land use category, industrial uses are prohibited. The existing conditions of the subject property are most similar to the description of the outlying suburban future land use category as described in policy 1.1.6. Goal 18 outlines the Lee Plan objectives and policies related to the Bayshore Community Plan. The Goal 18 language is on the screen, but it generally supports rural residential, agricultural, and low-intensity non-residential that do not disrupt the rural nature of the area. As previously noted, the subject property has supported a mixture of residential and non-residential uses since the 1970s, and the application materials noted numerous commercial uses throughout the Bayshore Community Plan area, similar to the applicant's request. The proposed future land use map amendment to outlying suburban is consistent with the Lee Plan Goal 18, as the types of commercial allowed will continue to be controlled by the Bayshore Community Plan area. And again, like the rural future land use category, outlying suburban prohibits industrial uses. Lee Plan Objective 4.1 requires all residential development and, all residential development exceeding 2.5 units per acre, and all commercial or non-residential development exceeding a certain threshold to connect to central water and sewer. To fully realize the density and intensity potential of the outlying future land use category, the property owner would need to access central water and sewer services. Additionally, the property is located within a Basin Management Action Plan, a BMAP, because of its proximity to the river. So the proposed incorporation of the subject property into the LCU Future Water Service Area Map is consistent with state statutes regarding utility expansion within a BMAP and Lee Plan Objective 4.1. The Bayshore Community Plan does directly address water and sewer connections as they relate to capital improvements in the future land use category. The subject property would no longer be within a future non-urban area with this amendment, and the owner of the subject property is electing to add themselves to MAP 4A for the ability to connect to central utilities. Lee County Utilities, again, would provide the water service to the property, and FGUA would provide the sewer service. So adding the property to MAP 4A is not inconsistent with Objective 18.3 and Policy 18.3.1. The proposed amendment also does not conflict with any other policies, objectives, or goals within the Lee Plan. Based on the analysis included in the staff report and this presentation, staff recommends approval of the proposed amendments. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you, Kate. Ray?
If the applicant obtains the comp plan and the zoning, can he pull a building permit without utilities at the site?
They would have to show compliance with the Objective 4.1 thresholds. So once they exceed those thresholds, they would have to connect to water and sewer. Does that make sense?
But it doesn't require the county to extend for his site?
No.
Dustin?
Does the county have any other plans for extending the utilities outside of this project?
I don't know that there's any county-initiated expansion, but there is some private expansion that is, from my understanding, likely to occur around this site.
Up to that, where are the sewer tie-in points?
I think the closest one is on Bayshore, just north of the Racket Club. I don't know the name of that subdivision, but it's on Bayshore, just past Bayshore Ranch.
Don? Good? All right, Kate, thank you.
You're very welcome.
LPA. We thank the staff and the applicant for their input today. I'll start with just my sentiments. I think that I agree with the staff's evaluation. I believe that they are complicit with the objectives and goals. Aside from the technical I's and T's, this makes, I think, really good sense for what's happening there. I think it deals with the present with anticipation of the future. And I do like the fact that it has limited residential bonus densities aren't allowed. You can't do industrial. It's adjacent to the Civic Center. And with all the road work, I'm in favor of and find this to be compliant with the objectives and goals. Anyone else have a thought or a comment?
My thought, I concur with you.
Okay, Hank?
I'm okay.
Good.
I support those comments. I think the applicant and the staff have done a great job on their evaluation of all of the concurrent policies and applaud them for that.
Thank you. Don?
I agree as well. I think it's proximity and the capital engagement and services that are available is different from the other rural properties.
Jennifer?
I think it's a good proposal. They're just preparing for the future.
Yeah. All right. Having that sentiment, I'd
Mr.
like to
Chairman, just want to make sure we call for public comment if anybody's here.
thank you for that reminder. Amongst the sea of people here, is there anyone that would like to speak to this? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment section. Thank you, Joe. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to support the of this application of CPA 2024-00017.
Thank you. We have a motion. Have a second?
I second.
A second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, let's go back to our agenda. That was the only agenda item today, and as we often do, Brandon, how are we looking for November or December?
As we typically do for November and December, we're expecting one hearing in early December, I think December 8th, just to avoid conflict with the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. At this time, I don't have any CPA cases that I'm anticipating, but we do have 3 LDC amendments that we're proposing to bring forward for next.
County initiated?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would be a definite December?
Yeah, we will definitely have a December hearing on December 8th. Janet can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Good job, staff. Good to see you. Move to adjourn. We are adjourned.